first responders of Reddit, what accident do you see most often that is 100% preventable? If you have old people in your house, or you are regularly in the house of an old person, pay attention to and get rid of small area rugs, carpet runners, etc. They are terrible trip hazards, and a broken hip is generally the beginning of the end for anyone over the age of 70. I worked at a senior home and it was so easy for people to fall. Very easy for something minor to be something major. One person had fallen and broken their hips. They said they felt fine but we talked them into going to the hospital. Later on they broke their wrist. Same thing. Didn't feel it but it was broken. I'm involved with motor vehicle accident investigations. Always check for the left turning car. Always check for pedestrians and oncoming traffic before you turn left. Beyond that, when you are in the left turning lane, do not turn your wheel while waiting to make your turn. If you are rear-ended, your vehicle will travel in the direction your tires are facing. I knew someone who got hit head-on because he was rear-ended and pushed into oncoming traffic. My dad's a firefighter. He says that a lot of injuries to the elderly are caused by rugs everywhere. They end up tripping on the rugs and breaking knees or hips. I'm not a first responder, but everyone should know the signs of a stroke. My dad had a stroke and I didn't notice the signs, so he didn't get to the ER for another 3 hours. Now he has permanent damage to his communication skills. It makes me sad to know I could have possibly reduced the severity if I had got him to the ER right away. My dad was only 45, and his stroke made his life so much more difficult. I would do anything to reverse it. Numbness or weakness in your face, arm, or leg, especially on one side. Confusion or trouble understanding other people. Trouble speaking. Trouble seeing with one or both eyes. Trouble walking or staying balanced or coordinated. Dizziness. Severe headache that comes on for no known reason. I should also add that we had the attitude of not needing to go to the ER unless it was severe. I knew something was wrong. I just couldn't say what. We thought he was just overworked and dehydrated. If you notice something is wrong with someone, don't hesitate to call for help. Drunk driving related vehicle collisions are the most common preventable accidents, but swimming accidents are some of the most devastating. Never leave your child near the water unattended. Don't do it. Don't assume your spouse is watching. Don't tell your older child to watch them. I don't care how good a swimmer your little one is, do not take your eye off of them. I have a buddy who is an EMT and he told me one of the most common calls he responds to are choking due to ginger beef. He also told me the fatality rate for these is incredibly high. In a nutshell, the meat tends to be very tough and thin while also coated in a slippery surface crust. Regular anti-choking techniques won't work and the only way to get it out is with forceps or something similar. TLDR. Ginger beef is deadly. Drownings. Swim near and talk to a lifeguard. Use flotation. Know your limitations and abilities. Understand what a rip current looks like and how it works. Talk to your lifeguard. They know area-specific hazards and can educate you on conditions you may not understand. Use a life jacket or bodyboard. Something attached to your person you won't lose if you are rolled by a wave. Set realistic limitations for your kids and yourself. The vast majority of people overestimate their swimming ability. I can't stress this enough. There is a fundamental difference between being able to swim across the deep end and being able to take care of yourself in open water. This is reflected in the fact that the majority of water rescues and drownings are for males aged 14-40 who can swim. Rip currents occur when water is directed offshore through a deep trench between sandbars or by a structure in or under the water such as a jetty, reef or pier. It takes a water depth of approx 1.4x the wave height for a wave to break. You can estimate the water depth this way. Unfortunately, people are intuitively drawn to the calmer water between the breaking waves, which is exactly where the rip current will form. Rip currents generally pull harder at low tide. There is less room for the water to move around. The sandbars create more of an obstruction. Think of it like putting a nozzle on a garden hose. Rip currents like organized surf as well. Organized surf produces organized currents. A 3-5 FT clean breaking long period wave looks inviting and manageable for most people with some swimming ability but is the worst condition in regard to rip currents. For the love of God, don't smoke if you're on oxygen. Things go boom, it makes for a bad day at the office. My grandpa suffered severe burns to his face doing this. Everyone told him not to, but he didn't listen. Stubborn man. Lucky it didn't kill him. He died a month later due to unrelated causes, but I'm thankful he didn't die the night he tried smoking while using his oxygen tank. I couldn't imagine how horrific and painful that would have been. Friends, do not let friends drive drunk. That said, don't drive drunk. Oh god, I grew up in rural Wisconsin, and my dumbass high school classmates would drive drunk every weekend. I say classmates because they were no longer my friends when I found out they did. Anyway, it only took one of them to die behind the wheel while drunk for them to stop. It's a shame. Too, it shouldn't have taken a tragedy like that for them to learn their lesson. Helmet your children when they ride bikes, roller skate or skateboard. Teach your kids to swim and do not leave them in water unattended. Wear your seatbelt. You may get into a car accident, and those who are belted and do much better than their friends in the same accident who get ejected. Turn the handles of pans and toward the stove. Do not let the handles poke out where your young child can reach up. Grab that handle and pour whatever manner of hot stuff all over them. Hot oil burns all over the baby because they could reach that handle. Do not freaking text and drive. Do not touch your phone and drive. I had a colleague who worked for NY Fire Dept for many years. She would harp on how many people put mattresses up against outlets and killed their children this way. Easy way to start a fire and easy to prevent. Wait, what? Don't take drugs if you or your buddies don't know what you're doing. A 43°C sunny day at a music festival is not a good time to start taking ecstasy by taking 2 full pills drunk. Wilderness first responder here, so have a slightly different perspective on this. Drink water. Hydrate yourself. Drink before you're thirsty. Sip regularly, not chug randomly. And for the love of the flying spaghetti monster, don't rely on that warm Camelback water to help you. Cold and common helps you stay clear and copious. Heat exhaustion and heat stroke can both be prevented by adequately hydrating and keeping your miracle of a temperature regulating organs functioning. Don't drag your family somewhere and expect everything to be right where it was a decade ago. And don't expect to be some survival expert just because you watched read something. No way you can refill on potable water. And if you don't find out ahead of time, talk to a dang park ranger or someone who looks like they know what is going on. I see this way too much down here in Texas and throughout the North American Southwest. Oh, and please come enjoy the outdoors. I love working with folks to help y'all do something in nature. After about 10 years in firearms, I'm reasonably sure there would be about 85% less need for all emergency services if alcohol wasn't the American national pastime. Also, be aware that if you dial 911, you will probably be at least partially naked when we arrive. No idea why, but it seems to hold true far too often. EMT with 20 years of experience, also firefighter and fire instructor in the past. Ladders, bathtubs, stairs, lots of falls. You don't worry about this kind of thing when you're 20, but you're likely to fracture a hip as you age. Power tools, wear your eye protection. Weekend chainsaw operators, myself included. I've nearly cut myself badly, by which I mean within millimeters, with a chainsaw twice now. Smoke alarms. Had an infant die in a fire many years ago because the state didn't mandate smoke alarms in rentals. It was the family's first night in the home. Know how to respect animals and teach it to your kids. They should understand basic dog language so they don't get bit trying to pet someone's dog. If you live in gun country, you and your kids should understand basic weapons safety and respect. Heck, not just gun country, but I find people are more casual about weapons around the house in rural areas. People keeping a loaded rifle and shooting deer out their back window. And no, I am not exaggerating. Don't ride motorcycles if you have dependents. Always friggin' look at the knife when you're chopping crap. Similarly, your mandolin slicer comes with a goddamn handguard for a reason, you numbskull. And, while we're at it, do not jerry-rig your food processor to work without the top on. Do not stick your hand in a whirring blender. Do not stick your fingers down the drain with the disposal running. You ninnies, your flesh is soft and squishy and blades are sharp. Not a first responder, but I have a great example. My uncle was in a car crash when he was in his teens. About 40 years ago, a person behind him tried to help him when he was found in the car passed out. He dragged him back to the side of the road to wait for paramedics. In the process he dislocated his broken neck, paralyzing him. You never move a victim from a car if there's a possibility of neck injury. If you feel depressed, talk to someone who you trust, is responsible and kind. If a friend seems off, was the life of the party and now seems like they're isolating themselves, or the reverse, someone typically keeps to themselves and is now the life of the party, check in on them. If you think someone doesn't seem safe to be alone, don't let them be alone. Hospitalization is expensive. I'm still getting hounded for money after a few hospitalizations. It's dreadful and scary. Most of my problems weren't solved by them. I'm alive though. Better hospitalization than suicide. If something can go wrong, it inevitably will if you give it enough time. Also, hire a good electrician. No one shady. I heard this question being asked on a radio show while I was driving one day. I had the window halfway open. The EMT said, if you're in a car, open the window all the way or not at all. Before he could finish, it dawned on me what he was about to say and I rolled it down all the way. Apparently so many car accidents become much worse than they would have been due to severe head lacerations from the window edge. Keep guns and ammo away from kids. Also, make sure they understand why they're not allowed to play with them, and how to handle one safely if they somehow get their hands on it. More kids die from drowning in pools each year than accidental handgun fatalities. Volunteer firefighter, what does that hazmat thing here? If you, for some reason, want to climb down into your septic tank manure slurry tank crap storage vessel, air it out first. Don't just open the lid. Point a leaf blower in there for a solid 10 minutes. Why? Because fermentation produces CO2, and that displaces air. Furthermore, if you see someone unconscious in such a place, do not go in after them. You'll just turn one funeral into two. My personal record is 5 people, who we believe to have entered the tank alone. 1, 2, 1, over the course of roughly an hour. All dead, all blue, all covered in a pig crap pea cocktail. Drinking. If your friend is turning blue, it's probably too late to bring him back from alcohol poisoning. So don't shove 22 shots of vodka down your 21-year-old girlfriend's throat when she's hardly been out drinking before. Paramedic here. Never take narcotics alone recreationally. If you must do it, make sure you are with a friend you trust. If you're that friend and someone overdoses, roll them onto their left side. Call 911. Start CPR if they stop breathing and answer all of my questions honestly when I get there. I will not tell the cops. From my experience in EMS and fire, if I could give one piece of advice to people, it's to wear your seatbelt. Just freaking do it. You do not want to be ejected from a vehicle. Cliche, I know, but it blows my mind that they've been standard on all cars for over 4 decades and some people still refuse to wear one for whatever stupid reason. Of course, I had to learn to wear my seatbelt the hard way as well, so I have no room to talk, I suppose. But yeah, do yourself a favor and put your seatbelt on. Lap belt over your hips and shoulder belt over your shoulder, not neck. And while this isn't all that common, it is heartbreaking and 100% preventable. Do not sleep with your infant child. I've seen 2 babies who asphyxiated because a family member was on top of them. It was devastating. I cannot imagine the sorrow and guilt those families feel. I teared up just thinking about how horrible it would be to accidentally kill your own child. So sad. Bicycle mechanic here. Why is this relevant? Put end caps on your handlebars, bar ends, plastic, metal, something. Do it. Keep spares. They're about $2 a pop and highly disposable. They get burned out quickly, either fall out or break apart, etc. I had metal ones that threaded into the ends of my bars and they outlasted the lifetime of the bars. I have seen chunks taken out from uncapped bars. Please, always keep them capped. Beyond that, on bikes, your pedals are grippy at a certain point. Beyond that, it's excess grip and added danger. At a certain point, your shoes will stay, and to get the pedals spikier beyond that is just superfluous. If you slip a toe or heel off, that pedal is coming at your shin and or calf. In BMX, usually with a lot of force and sharp edges. Also, remember bikes are cheap, well, like cars really. There are cheap ones and expensive ones, and you get what you pay for. But in the end, 95% of the population rides an average bike. Welds and bends create points of interest. Keep an eye on them. Excessive rust, wear and tear, etc., and suddenly the handle snaps off your bars. Well, in my time in BMX, you supported yourself on your bars a bit, so your entire weight is going down toward that jagged metal edge now. I'm sure there are more stories just from bikes, but those are the big ones. 1. Bar ends, please. 2. Your pedals don't need to be so spiky. 3. Failure methods of bicycle components are easy to wrap your head around. Always be aware of them. CPR. Although you don't need it every day of your life, just having the knowledge and skills is huge. More people need to have this simple and super available training. My mom is a nurse and she always told me a neat little tidbit. You can do the compressions to the beat of both Staying Alive and Another One Bites the Dust to maintain the right speed. I'm not currently a first responder, but I was for years, and when I finish my undergrad I'll be back in it full time. Maintain your physical health. So many people drop dead at 40 from poor physical health. Unless you enjoy the smell of burnt toast and sudden cardiac arrest, get healthy and stay healthy. Learn CPR. It's surprisingly easy and the training works in the real world. I learned CPR and have done it a handful of times as a first responder. You can increase the chances of your loved ones surviving a cardiac arrest by learning CPR. Use them with their freaking crosswalks. I've seen people twisted up, looking like they didn't have a bone in their body because they decided to run across the road and got hit by someone going 50 miles per hour. The driver gets all sorts of mental issues after that, because you decided you didn't want to walk 200 feet to the closest intersection. And it's not even the driver's fault. Use a crosswalk. If your house is on fire, get the frick out. Yes, you may be able to save a few things, and maybe you can put a fire out with your garden hose if you catch it in the growth stage. Do you know what you can't do though? Breathe in hydrogen cyanide and all those other superheated gases without becoming a dead person. You'd be surprised how many people think they can put the fire out and they end up dying right at the door. The crap ain't campfire smoke. Your couch is made of dead dinosaurs. Son, breathe in a few breaths of heated deadly smoke and you've already done irreparable mortal damage to yourself. Singe your lungs, making the amount of oxygen you get much less, and also the deadly smoke wants to bond to your oxygen cells a heck of a lot more than oxygen does. And even breathing it a little bit can inhibit your ability to absorb oxygen. If you're in a fire, get the frick out and avoid fire smoke if at all possible. The stay low thing is true. A few feet in altitude can be several 100f different. Stay low and GTFO. If your house is on fire, be a good witness and call 911. Is there anybody in the house? If so, which room? Firefighters can do a rapid search if someone is in a specific room. If you're dead at the front door, they're going to focus on you and the fire, and it may take longer to find the other victim. Oh, lastly, listen to the police. You can get shot by not listening to the police. Law enforcement, not the 80s band. Hands out of your pocket, do it. Being detained in cuffs, just let it happen. Under arrest, don't resist. In the streets, an officer will always win. You are in the early stages of the justice system, and if you have a problem you can take it to court or complain on the individual officer. I know you all see videos on YouTube and live a leak of bad cops. There are bad cops. Most of them aren't bad, so give them the benefit of the doubt, why don't ya? Lifeguard. Kids drowning. Keep your kids within arm's reach and don't let them out of your sight for a second. I've hauled so many kids off the bottom whose parent left them in the pool while they took a pee break or something. Get your kids into swim lessons and keep them close. Alcohol poisoning. I see so many way too drunk biddies at frat parties. Many times, they get transported to the hospital. If you're younger and have no real experience with alcohol before, sure, I'm sorry you had this situation and now you know. But when I see older college girls just completely out of control, throwing up and all over the place, it's like, you know your tolerance and now you're making all these other people take care of you. I work on a university campus, and the amount of students who think it's fine to ride around on a bike at night dressed in dark clothes with no lights is crazy. It's literally only been a couple of weeks since someone was knocked off their bike and killed. I feel like winding the car windows down and shouting at them. DUI and alcohol-related accidents. Inappropriate footwear on women. So many sprained ankles and walking on broken glass while stumbling through the streets holding their high heels in their hands. Wear sensible shoes. Nobody cares. No, really, nobody cares about your shoes. Mother freaking lost kids. Just keep a buddy system. Have them memorize your cell numbers. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.